greetings of the day and welcome to this session, all of you. So, let us move forward with the 15th question. Discuss various switching techniques used in a computer network. See, what do you mean by switching techniques? Switching techniques means to move information from one point to another point, or to move information from sender to receiver. So, how the information flows from a sender computer or a sender device to a receiver's device. So, that movement is called as switching. That movement is called as switching. And we follow switching techniques, different types of switching techniques to move data from receiver to, from sender to the receiver. And we have three types of switching techniques. Okay. Circuit switching, message switching and packet switching. But before going to learn about those techniques, let us see what is switching technique and how many types of switch networks are there. Okay. The primary objective in any communication network is simply moving information from one source to one or more destination nodes. Means from source to destination, you have to move the information. And based on the techniques used to transfer the data, communication networks can be classified into broadcast and switched networks. See, what do you mean by broadcast networks? See, all these TV networks are broadcast networks. Okay. BBC, British Broadcasting Corporation. That means a particular message is broadcasted and whoever wants to see it, whoever wants to watch it, can watch it. Everyone will have an access of it. That is called as broadcast networks. That means the data is transmitted by one node, is received by many. Like in the case of TV. Okay. Sometimes all of the other nodes. In switched communication, the data transferred from one source to destination routed through switched nodes. See, in switching communication, what happens? It is not broadcasted. Only the information is delivered to the receiver. And there are different modes of delivering your data to the receiver. That is what we need to understand. The way in which the nodes switch data from one link to another as it is transmitted from source to destination node is referred to as switching technique. So, what do you mean by switching technique? Switching technique is the process of moving, switching means moving, of moving your data from the source to the destination. Okay, it is called as switching techniques. And we have three common switching techniques. The first one is circuit switching, second one is message switching, and third one is packet switching. Now, what do you mean by circuit switching? Circuit switching is the simplest method of data communication. Circuit switching happens as if we make a phone call, a landline phone call. That is circuit switching. Okay. So, in circuit switching, what happens? The route or circuit is dedicated and exclusive and released only when the communication session terminates. See, whenever I call someone, either through mobile or fixed line phone call, what happens? A circuit is established between the sender and the receiver, like this. Let us assume this is the sender here. Okay, this is the sender here and this is the receiver here. And a circuit is established between the sender and the receiver. That is a dedicated line. And whenever someone tries either to the sender or either to the receiver, you will get a busy tone. And that particular line cannot be used by anyone else. That is the reason in normal phone calls we always get a message like all lines are busy. Why all lines are busy? Because all lines existing are engaged with calls. So, in order to connect your call, a dedicated line, a separate line is required and that is not available. That is why the telecom operator says all lines are busy or all channels are busy. That is the significance of that particular message. And at any point of time, only two communication devices can transmit. Yes, see, whenever a fixed circuit is established between the sender and the receiver, only these two people can interact. Only these two things can talk, not the other one. Okay. And this will be the experience of every person using a telephone. Yes, this is our common day experience, everyday experience. Okay, and a single circuit is used for the entire duration of the call. That means one particular channel, exclusive channel is dedicated, and that channel is used towards, that channel is used for the duration of the entire call. And applications which use circuit switching go through 3 phases. So how circuit switching happens? First you have to establish a circuit. That means the sender has to connect with the receiver. Then the transmission of data takes place. Then once the work is finished, we will disconnect the circuit. That means in telephone call what happens? When the work is finished, we will disconnect the call. Automatically the circuit also breaks. So in order to understand circuit switching, it is very easy, because you just take the example of how you make a call and how a dedicated line is established between yourself and the receiver and how you are talking. The same thing happens in the computers also. That is the technique of circuit switching. Now coming to message switching, and this is also our common experience, where how messages are transmitted. See, whenever you send an SMS, is there a need that the other person should also be activated, or whether the other person should also be active and respond? No. Even when the receiver is not available, but still you can send the message. Even when his phone is switched off, you can still send the message, and whenever he switches on the phone, the message will be transmitted. Whereas in the case of circuit switching, what is required? Both the sender and receiver should be active at the same point of time. Then only the communication happens between the sender and the receiver. But whereas in the case of message switching, that is not required. That is not at all required. Okay, it is just enough. It is just enough that you send the message, and message will move forward and reach the destination in whatever manner it wants. That means, like in circuit switching, here in message switching, no dedicated line of communication, no dedicated channel of communication is required. Okay. Now message switching, that is store and forward. How? In message switching, end users communicate by sending each other a message. End users means the sender and the receiver. They communicate by sending a message which contains the entire data being delivered from source to destination. That means whatever data that is to be sent from the sender to the receiver will be made into a message. And as the message is routed from its source to its destination, each intermediate switch within the network stores the entire message, providing a very reliable service. See, in circuit switching, what happens? In circuit switching, the data goes from the sender to the receiver directly in a dedicated channel. But here in message switching, there will be lot of intermediate nodes, so that this particular message will travel to all the intermediate nodes and finally it reaches the receiver. Okay, and the intermediary nodes have responsibility of conveying the received message from one node to another node in the network. That means how the message transmission happens. See, this is the receiver and this is the sender and this is the receiver. Now, between the sender and receiver, there are some intermediary nodes. And now, from sender, first the message reaches to the first intermediary node 1, and then the message reaches to intermediary node 2, and then from there it reaches to intermediary node number 3, and finally it reaches to the receiver. That means it will not directly sent to the receiver. This do not happen in message switching. So this procedure takes place in message switching. That is what you need to understand. And therefore each intermediary node within the network must store all the messages before retransmitting them at one at a time as proper resources become available. Yes. See, this intermediary node 1, intermediary node 2, intermediary node 3, they have to take all the data what the sender is sending, because we don't know how much time the data will be there at the intermediary node 1. So that's why all the data will be there at the intermediary node 1, and that will give it to intermediary node 2, then to 3, and then finally the actual message will be sent to the actual receiver. Now, this characteristic is often referred to as store and forward. Yes. Now, sender is forwarding to intermediary node 1, and intermediary node is storing the information and again forwarding to intermediary node 2, and again intermediary node is storing the actual message and later forwarding to intermediary node 3. So, this is a store and forward mechanism that happens in message switching. And examples of message switching are email, voicemail, SMS. These all come under message switching examples. Okay. Now, packet switching. See, packet switching means all our internet connections operate using a technique called packet switching. Okay. We generally call GPRS, General Packet Radio Service. So, what is a packet? Packet means a data packet. See, data which needs to be transmitted from one place to another place in an internet is divided into small chunks, and each chunk is called as a packet, data packet, which contains some little data. Okay. And it is a sophisticated technique of maximizing transmission capacity of networks. See, once you perform packet switching, then the data transfer will be very high, because you can send many packets using many channels. That is the advantage. Packet switching refers to protocols in which messages are broken up into small transmission units. Say for example, 100 MB of data has to be sent. So this 100 MB of data is broken down into small packets of 512 kilobytes each, and each 512 kilobytes packet, each 512 kilobytes unit of data is called as a data packet. Okay, and each packet is transmitted individually across the network, and the packets may even follow different routes. This is the biggest advantage. See, sometimes we feel that internet is very faster. What is the reason? Because you are getting the packets from different channels, different lines. So that's why the internet is very fast. Sometimes the packet rate is very low. Okay, so there is no rule that all these packets should travel in the same channel. There is no such kind of rule. The packets can travel in any direction, in any channel, and there is no rule that there should be some sequence. Sequence need not be maintained. Randomly packets can be sent in any channel. Then you will get it out. Sir, if we send the packets randomly, then how will we know about the sequence of the packets? You need not worry, because every packet will have a packet number, packet ID, what data it contains, everything it will have. And that all care will be taken by your network interface card. See, you will have a NIC in every computer, no? So that will take care. You need not worry about the order of the packets and all. Okay. And this method is currently used to transmit data in internet. So that is about switching techniques. How many switching techniques? 3 switching techniques. Circuit switching, remember, phone connections. Message switching, how you send your email or SMS. Packet switching, how the data is transmitted in internet. So these are the 3 switching techniques. Now let us move towards a very important topic, network architecture and protocols. That means how actually data transfers from one computer to another computer. How a network is built. What happens between 2 computers when data is transmitted? That is called as network architecture. That means, see, we have to make some arrangements, no? In the market, if you just go and buy some network cable, and if you just attach that network cable to the 2 computers, do you think that data is easily transmitted from one computer to another computer? No, absolutely no. Then, what is required? What is required? We have to design an architecture. We have to design a layout regarding how data from computer A moves to computer B. That is very important. So these all things will be given by the network architecture. So network architecture refers to the layout of the network. Means how the network is made, how the network is built, what software is required, what hardware is required. Because sending data from one device to another device is not easy. Several things are involved, many things are involved. So we need to know about all those things. So those all things are called as network architecture. Means the hardware, the software, the connecting mechanisms, the protocols, okay, these all things, they are called as network architecture. Because to transmit data from sender to receiver, we require all these things. And these all things have to be planned properly. They have to be architectured properly. Okay. Now, the diagram of network architecture provides a full picture of the established network with a detailed view of all the resources accessible. So, we want a complete picture, no? Because we actually wanted to know how data travels from source to destination, how it moves. For example, if you send a hello to your friend, you send a message called hello to your friend using a WhatsApp or some other communication methodology. So how actually the data goes, how actually your hello, your wish to your friend goes, that you need to understand. For that, you need to study the architecture of the network. Okay, that is very, very important. So network architecture includes hardware components used for communication, cabling and device, network layout, topologies, physical and wireless connections, implemented areas and future plans. See, that means we have already studied about topologies. We have already studied about transmission modes. We have already studied about transmission types. We have studied about switching techniques. That means we have studied them separately. Now, in order to send some data from computer A to computer B, in order to send some data from computer A to computer B, these all things are required. What all things are required? Hardware devices like routers, switches are required, protocols are required, okay, topology is required, transmission mode is required, okay, wired or wireless channels are required. That means these are all the basic components. See, in order to construct a building, what are required? We require cement, sand, stone, iron, and so far we have studied about sand, iron, stone, cement separately. But these all things are required to construct the building. Likewise, topologies, network hardware, protocols, transmission modes, transmission channels, these all things are required to build a network. Okay, so that is the most important thing you need to understand. These all things are required to build a network. Okay, that means without all these transmission, sending of data from sender to receiver is not at all possible. Okay, now the goal is to promote an open, simple, flexible and efficient telecommunications environment. See, we have to build a very simple network, a very flexible, simple and easily accessible network. So that is, there are two types of things like that, OSI model and TCP/IP model. These are the two basic models which tells you how networks operate or how data moves from one place to another place. What is the procedure? Okay, and we have to use standard protocols, standard hardware and software, and interface end users and computer systems. That means, for example, if the data communication between two devices, a sender and a receiver happens, we require standard hardware, standard software. Hardware means network hardware. What is network hardware? Already we learnt. Modems, multiplexers, bridges, routers, hub, these all things are required. Cables. Okay, again in cables we have three twisted pair cables, coaxial cables, fiber optic cables. These all things are required. Otherwise, if you don't want cables, at least you require some wireless communication like infrared rays, terrestrial waves. So some sort of communication mechanism is required to transmit data from one device to another device. Okay. And now there are two basic network architectures, OSI model and TCP IP model. Generally, all our internet connections, all our laptop internet connections, desktop internet connections, they all follow TCP IP model, transmission control protocol, internet protocol. That is the model which we generally follow. And in smartphones, in mobiles, we use WAP protocol, wireless application protocol. Okay. Now, what do you mean by protocol? Protocol is the most important thing in a computer network. Protocol. Okay. Generally, what is the meaning of the protocol? Protocol is the set of rules and regulations that are to be followed while doing something. That is a protocol. Likewise, in computer network also, a protocol is very, very important. Okay. In computer network also, a protocol is very, very important. Then what is a protocol? Generally, protocol comes under network software. Protocol comes under network software. We have n number of protocols like HTTP, Hypertext Transmission Protocol. It tells how to transfer hypertext from one computer to another computer. We have SMTP, Simple Mail Transfer Protocol. How to transfer mail from one computer to another computer, SMTP. We have point-to-point protocol. We have FTP, File Transfer Protocol. That means there should be a method, there should be a process, there should be a procedure to perform anything. Isn't it right or not? So, that means we need to write a program. You all know that. In computer, for everything we require a program. So, we need to write some programs to decide on how to do a particular activity, how to send a mail. For that, you need to write a detailed procedure, a detailed program. And that procedure has to be followed when you send mail to others. That is called as SMTP, Simple Mail Transfer Protocol. And what procedure has to be followed when I want to download a particular file into my computer? There should be a procedure. For that, you have to write a program. And only by following that procedure, you have to download the files. That is called as an FTP, File Transfer Protocol. And how to load a website into your computer? For that, I have written a process, a program that is called as HTTP, Hypertext Transmission Protocol. Okay. So, likewise in network, for everything there will be a protocol. And that protocol has to be followed. That is the most important thing. See, earlier we used to follow HTTP protocol to load the websites. But today the secured version of HTTP, that is HTTPS, is followed. Okay. So, this is a protocol. That means for everything in the network, a procedure should be there. A program has to be written. And that procedure has to be followed definitely. Otherwise, what happens? See, you will get a lot of problems, no? If you don't follow a particular procedure, you will get a lot of problems. Okay. The biggest problem in network is traffic. Many systems will be there. Hundreds and thousands of systems will be there. Now, if you don't have a particular procedure, if a particular protocol is not there, see, protocol is the controlling mechanism. See, to control the traffic, we require a traffic inspector or a traffic constable appointed at certain key locations, at strategic locations, in order to control the traffic. Likewise, in the same way, to control the network traffic, we require controlling mechanism. What is that controlling mechanism? Protocol is the controlling mechanism. How the protocol continues? What is a protocol? Is it a man? Is it a device? No, it is a software. It is a program written by the programmer to control the flow of data in a network. And for everything we have a protocol. Whatever things you want to do in a network, For everything a protocol will be there. For downloading a file, a protocol will be there. For uploading a file, a protocol will be there. For loading a site, a protocol will be there. For sending a mail, a protocol will be there. So for everything there will be a protocol. Okay. So that is what you need to understand about protocol. So protocols are software that performs a variety of actions necessary for data transmission between computers. Protocols are set of rules for inter-computer communication. That means when two computers want to communicate, for example here A and B wants to communicate. Now they should follow some protocols, some rules and regulations are there. See, whenever even one person wants to talk to another person, we will first wish, hi, how are you? Good morning. So this is a protocol. Or will we speak, hey, what are you doing? Will we speak in that way? No. There is some rules and regulations. There are some rules and regulations that are to be followed when you communicate with other person. And the same thing holds good in the case of computers also. Okay. Some rules and regulations, protocols have to be followed. And these all protocols are to be implemented by everyone in the network. For example, I am in the computer network. I am using computer network. I have to follow some protocols. That means my system, what system I am using, that system should have the built-in, the protocols built in. And if I want to send some message to you, then your system should also have those protocols. That is the most important thing. Okay. And protocols allow heterogeneous computers to talk to each other. See, I may be using another computer or another operating system. See, I may be using iPhone and sending you a message, where you may be using an Android phone and watching my message. Now here the hardware devices are different. I am using an iPhone, you are using a Samsung phone. I am using a different OS, iOS, and you are using Android. But still message is transmitted. How? Protocols. Protocols are converting. Protocols are doing everything. Protocols are behind the screen, behind the doors, behind the curtains. Protocols are like the directors of the movie. The director will not be visible. Only the actors will be visible. Likewise, protocols will be at the back, directing everything. What should happen, when it should happen, how it should happen, where it should happen, what should happen. Everything is directed by the protocols. Okay? Right. Aspects defined by protocols. That means a protocol, see, you need not learn about the aspects defined by protocols. Everything in the network communication will be handled by the protocols. What are they? Syntax. Syntax means what? How to convert the data, how to transfer the data, how much data to transfer, what are the rules and regulations, what character sets ought to be used, okay, what type of error correction should be done to the messages. Everything is taken care by the protocols. And semantics. Semantics means what? In what way the data is to be transferred. See, for example, I am sending you 1 MB of data. So how that 1 MB of data has to be divided? What is the sequence? This all I have to decide. So that comes under semantics. Semantics generally refer to the meaning and timing. How much of data has to be sent? What is the correct timing of the events? This all will be decided. That means everything. For example, if I want to send a piece of data from computer A to computer B. For example, I want to send hello from computer A to computer B. Then this hello, how to transfer this word hello from computer A to computer B. Everything, the background work, it will be done by the protocols. For everything there will be a protocol. And there will be innumerable protocols. Not 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. There will be number of protocols, hundreds of protocols. For every activity, there will be a protocol. Okay. And now, we are going to learn a very important question, OSI model. Open Systems Interconnection. See, Open Systems Interconnection. What do you mean by open systems here? Open systems means, see, I have a computer here and I have another computer here, and these two are open systems. Means they are ready to be connected. They are ready to get connected. Now, how can I connect two open systems? See, if they are closed systems, I cannot connect, isn't it? Closed systems means that system is not capable of connecting with another system. So, there is no issue there. The problem is only with how to connect the open systems. So, that's why we have an internationally accepted architecture to connect two open systems. So, that is called as open system interconnection. Okay. And this open system interconnection OSI model is standardized by ISO, International Standards Organization. See, this is a theoretical model. Theoretical model means what? This model has to be learned by every network engineer, by every network professional. Okay, which model? This OSI model. Why? Because this OSI model gives a step-by-step understanding to the person to understand about how a particular message will be transmitted from one computer to another computer. So first you need to have a clarity regarding how a particular message goes from one sender to another receiver. For that, ISO, International Standards Organization, has given a model called OSI model. So this OSI model tells you, what it will tell you? The detailed procedure of transmitting data from one computer to another computer in a network. Until and unless you study the OSI model, you will not get a clarity regarding how data gets transferred from one computer to another computer. And you may tell me, sir, we don't know all these OSI model, but still we are sending the messages. I am not telling as a user, I am telling as an network expert. If you are a network expert and if you want to know how data actually, how technically the data move from one computer to another computer, definitely you have to study the OSI model. And you may ask me, sir, you are telling that OSI model is a theoretical model. It is not used. And I told you we are using TCP/IP. Okay. In our internet for connecting desktops and laptops, we are using TCP/IP. Then what is the need to study the OSI? The answer is, even the TCP/IP model was built basing on the OSI model only. OSI model is the basic model which explains how a particular network operates. So that is the reason you should definitely study the OSI model. And many people get confused that OSI model is a practical model. No, it is not a practical model. And the beauty of OSI model is, rather than confusing you, it has clearly divided the entire process of transmission of data from one computer to another computer. Say from computer A to computer B, the data has to be transmitted. So what is the process carried on? That all process has been broken down into easy steps. 7 steps. And it is called as layers. Rather than steps, it is called as layers. Layers means what? See, we have layers in onion. And if you want to go to the second layer, first of all you have to break the first layer. And then only you can go to the second layer. Because layers are one upon the another, no? And if you want to go to the innermost layer, definitely you have to travel through all the outermost layers. There is no escape. Steps means while you are climbing the steps, you can skip one or second step and you can directly go to the third step. But in a layered model, there is no escape. That is why here layers they are called as. That means you have to definitely follow 7 layers to send data from one computer to another computer. That is the beauty of OSI model. Many people gets confused in OSI model. There is no confusion here. See, this is the theoretical model given by ISO to give you better understanding regarding how data moves from one location to another location. And ISO has divided the process of transmitting the data into 7 layers. And all these 7 layers have to be performed. Then only data transmission happens. That's all. Simple logic. Okay. Now, let us go to OSI model. So, OSI model is given by ISO. It facilitates communication of heterogeneous hardware or software platforms with each other. Yes, heterogeneous means what? I am using a computer. Here the word platform is used. What do you mean by platform? Platform means here it refers to operating system. I may be using Linux, you may be using Windows, I may be using iOS, you may be using Android. So here platform refers to operating system, software platform. And hardware platform means I may be using an iPhone, you may be using a Samsung phone. But still communication should be possible, no? See, for example, if I say communication only happens between two Dell computers, or communication happens only between two Windows systems, or communication happens only between two iPhones, communication happens only between two Android. Is it right? No. Absolutely no. Isn't it? So what is required? Communication should happen between heterogeneous systems. Okay. Heterogeneous means you may be using any computer made by any manufacturer or by any, you may be using any operating system. And I may be using another operating system, another manufacturer. But still, the communication should happen between you and me. Okay. So how is it made possible? That is made possible by OSI model. And it is defined with the help of 7 layers or functions. What are they? First one is the application layer. Okay. See, let us take an example so that you will understand the things. Say for example, I am the sender at computer A and I want to send hello to computer B. I want to send this hello to computer B. Now, application layer. This layer is closest to the end user and interacts with software applications and provide user services by file transfer, file sharing, etc. At this layer, the communication partners are identified, quality of service is identified, user authentication and privacy is considered, database concurrency, deadlock situation are undertaken at this layer. See how much work has to be done. Just I want to say hello to my friend using a computer. But for that, how many things are to be done? First, whether the channel is okay or not, whether the quality of service is okay or not. Now, whether I can say hello or not, whether the receiver is accessible or not. Okay, and whether the receiver is busy or whether the receiver can be accessed or not. Yes, without looking at all these things, how can I say hello to my friend? It is not a physical hello. It is a hello using a network. So, I have to check out all these things. Whether I can access the channel or not. Whether I am authenticated person to say hello or not. Whether I have the permission to access the network channel or not. Okay. Whether I can share something with my friend or not. First of all, these all things I have to check out. Yes, for doing all this checking, some protocols are required. And those protocols are called as application layer protocols. That means whenever I want to say hello to my friend, the first thing I have to check is whether I am allowed to say hello or not, first of all. Whether I have permissions or not. Whether my friend can be accessed or not. First of all, these all should be checked out. Okay. So, this all work is called as application layer. So, this all work is performed by some protocols called application layer protocols. Okay. I am authorized to send. Everything is okay. Line is okay. Receiver is accessible. I can share. I have permission to say hello. I am authenticated. Everything is okay. Now moving on to the next step, presentation layer. Also referred to as syntax layer. This layer acts usually as a part of operating system that converts incoming and outgoing data from one presentation format to another format. See, I am using a computer made by Dell. Okay. And I am using Windows operating system. Whereas my friend is using some Ubuntu operating system in a Lenovo computer. Now here, the operating systems are different. I am using Windows, my friend is using Ubuntu, a Linux based operating system. Now, the data has to be transformed from Windows format to Ubuntu format. Or I may be using an iPhone with iOS, and my friend is using Android with a Samsung. Now there is a lot of difference in presentation and all. So now this hello has to be transformed from Windows format to Ubuntu format, or from iOS format to Android format. This has to be done. So who do all these things? For example, if it is a large data, it has to be compressed. The presentation has to be changed. And on-screen display. For example, here I sent hello in red color, and to my friend, to the receiver, again it should be displayed in red color. So who will take care of all these things? So it is presentation layer or presentation layer protocols will take care of all these things. See, it is not so easy to say hi or hello to your friend. Lot of process is there. Okay, so now this has to be done. And now the session layer. Okay, my hello, its color, its presentation, its everything is copied. Okay, and now it is ready to be sent. Now I have to establish a session with my receiver, a session with my friend. That is why sometimes when you go to an ATM and once you insert a card and you just missed out your password and you are just thinking, and in the meantime what happens? Meanwhile, a session expired, message will come. That means whenever you insert a card, there will be a session of just 45 seconds. So you have to enter within that 45 seconds. If that 45 seconds time is crossed, then automatically you will get a message called session expired. And again you have to restart the session. So likewise, when I want to communicate with my friend, when I want to send some message to my friend, first of all I have to establish a session. Session means the duration with which I can communicate. So a session has to be established. And that session establishment work will be done by some other protocols. So that work is called as session layer work. And after that, transportation layer. Transportation layer means what? I have to divide the message, my message, hello, into different packets. So this all packet division work should be done. And you know, in networking, these hackers and all problem will be there. So for that, I need to encrypt the packets. Encryption is converting the packets into coded format. So I need to encrypt it. Okay. So these all things have to done, because I have to make my data secure so that people in the middle should not access my data. So this all work has to be done. This will be done by the transport layer. Means all packaging for transportation, all packaging work, multiplexing work, compressing, mixing, encryption, okay, security packaging, this all will be done by the transport layer. Okay, and now comes the network layer. What this network layer will do? Network layer will choose which channel to use. Because here comes the network topology. Because there are multiple ways of reaching, no? For example, yesterday we learnt about network topology. There are multiple ways of reaching a sender and a receiver. So which channel to follow, which way to follow, which route to follow, that will be decided by the, which one? Network layer. It decides the physical choice of physical route. Okay. And then the data link layer comes. What this data link layer will do? This will do the transfer of data. Okay. It will take the data. Okay. And it will put it into the channel and the data goes. And who will leave the data and who will accept the data? It is again physical layer. There is a network interface card inside your computer, isn't it? Network interface card. So that card will actually send the data and receive the data. So this is called as physical layer. This is the actual layer which you can see. And these are all imaginary layers. Which one? Data link layer, network layer, transport layer, session layer, presentation layer, application layer. These are all imaginary layers. That means actually all the work is done by the network interface cable only, network interface card only. But all the work that is done by the network interface card is easily broken down to make you understand. And for every work, a naming is given. For encryption, for secured packaging, one name is given called transportation layer. Okay, so likewise. So now the actual physical layer means the network interface card of the sender will send the data, and the network interface card of the receiver will receive the data. Okay, so this is how OSI model will be functioning. Okay, see, these all mechanical features, electromagnetic features, these all are related to that thing only. Which one? Network interface card. Okay, that will take care of the things. So these are all the 7 layers that are followed while we send data from one computer to another computer. Now you should understand, we are just sending thousands and thousands of messages to our friends. Hello, hi, Tinnava, Unnava, what you are doing. But behind every message transfer, this all process, encryption, compression, network layering, transport layer, these all things are taking place. Okay, right. Now, write a short notes on TCP/IP model. See, this is the practical model. This OSI model is a theoretical model, whereas TCP/IP model is a practical model. Okay, where the internet connections of our laptops, desktops, they all follow this TCP/IP model. But one thing you please remember, this TCP/IP model is not at all a new model. This TCP/IP model is a derived model which got inspired from OSI model. That is the greatness of OSI model. OSI model is the basic theoretical model. It is a 7-layered model, whereas TCP/IP is a 5-layered model. TCP/IP is a 5-layered model inspired by OSI model. That means in TCP/IP model what happens? In OSI model we have 3 layers: application layer, presentation layer, session layer. In TCP/IP model we call it as application or process layer, which handles all the functions of the 3 layers performed in the OSI model. That means they have designed in that way. See, by taking the OSI model, you can develop your own model. Your model may contain only 3 layers. It does not mean that you can skip some of the layers of OSI model. OSI model is a standard model which you have to follow to definitely transfer data from one computer to another computer. There is no exception there. In OSI model there may be 7 layers, but in your model there may be only 3 layers. That means all the 7 layers there have to be populated into 3 layers here. See, that is what it is happening in TCP/IP model also. The application layer, presentation layer, session layer work. All these 3 layers work is now done by the application layer or process layer here. That is what we need to understand. And transport layer work is done by host to host transportation layer here. And network layer work done by IP layer. Data link layer is network interface layer. And physical layer is physical layer. Same naming. Okay. So that is TCP/IP model. So TCP/IP model is a 5-layered model. But these 5 layers performs the functions of the 7 layers. Okay. That means 5 is equal to 7. That's all. Simple logic. And that 7 are mandatory. And sometimes you may have a 20-layered model also. But even 20 layers means 7 layers only. 7 layers are the basic things. Basing on that you may divide, you may increase or decrease. But the basic work is that 7-layered model. That is why OSI model is important. Okay. Now, let us move on to know the classification of computers. How the computers are divided. See, in networks generally we have a client-server model, no? Client-server model. Generally in large organizations we don't have peer-to-peer model, but whereas we will have client-server model. Okay. Client-server model means there will be a server here and several clients will be connected to that particular server. Now we need to learn about the types of clients. How many types of clients can be there? See, what is a client here? See, all of our computers are clients. Whatever computer you use, you are a client. There will be server somewhere. Now I am using a client. There is server somewhere. And these clients have different names. It can be called as a workstation, It can be called as a node, it can be called as a client, it can be called as a terminal sometimes. So these are all interchangeable words. Okay. Now how many types of clients can be there? Now a client is a single user workstation. That is why I told workstation or client. So a client is a single user workstation that provides presentation services and the appropriate computing, connectivity and the database services relevant the business need. That means now I am using a client. Now what this client is doing? It is presenting me the data. And where from this data is coming? Data is not there here. Data is not there in the client. It is coming from somewhere. And this client is just showing me, just presenting me the data. Okay. And this client is connected to the server. The actual data is at the server and I am getting the data from the server, and this client is just providing me the presentation services. And client computers can be classified into fat client, thin client and hybrid client. Now what do you mean by fat client? Fat client means, see for example, you have a desktop computer where the computer can function by itself. Actually there is no need of any server. Okay. And the computer can be started and you can do all kinds of work with that computer. And if you want, you can connect to the network also. That means you are using a standalone computer which is capable of running by itself. You can use that computer without a network also. And you can also connect that computer to a network. If you connect to a network, it will work in the network. Or if you disconnect the network, even then you can happily do your work with that computer, with that desktop or laptop. Then it is called as a fat client or thick client. So a fat client or thick client is a client that performs the bulk of any data processing operations itself and does not necessarily rely on the server, your personal computer. Even by disconnecting to the network, even by disconnecting from internet, you can work with your computer. You can do some local work. If you want to do some online work, you can do it. But if you want to do some local work, you can do. Now coming to thin client, what it is? See, thin clients are less expensive. See, in large corporations and in very big colleges, generally they use thin clients. See, thin clients are the computers which only function when they are connected to the network. A server should be there. Everything should come from the server. Locally means client. See, we generally use remote and local. Local means where we are. Remote means somewhere. Data is coming from somewhere. I am using Google. Data is coming from US. That is a remote server. And whatever gadget I have in my hand is a local thing. Okay. So, in thin client, nothing happens locally. Everything should come from the remote server. Because this is a thin client. It is not having higher processing power. It cannot process anything. And this thin client just present me the things, that's all. So that is a thin client. So a thin client uses the resources of the host computer. Who is the host computer here? Server. Host means server. Clients are the guests. Host is server. And a thin client generally presents only processed data provided by an application server. That means this thin client cannot do anything. It only presents, it only shows the data given by the server. And a thin client machine is going to communicate with the central processing server, meaning there is a little hardware and software installed in the user machine. That means in a thin client, there is very basic hardware and basic software. That is why thin clients are less expensive. But this is a cost-effective way. That is the reason many big colleges, many offices, they are using this concept of thin client. Because you need not spend more on thin clients. You can have a very big server, a very powerful server, and all these thin clients can be connected to that powerful server. And hybrid client. A hybrid client is a mixture of both thick and thin clients. That means it can work locally or it can also connect to a network. So if both things are possible, then it is called as a hybrid client. And discuss the working of client server architecture. See how the client server architecture will function. You know what is a server? A server is generally, it is also a computer. A server is also a computer, but of higher configuration. Your normal computer may have 6 GB of RAM, whereas the server contains 1 TB of RAM. Not 1 TB of hard disk, 1 TB of RAM it will have. Your computer, your laptop or desktop may have 1 TB hard disk, whereas the server may have 1 PB hard disks. PB means petabytes. You are having 1 terabyte and the server will have 1 petabyte. What is wrong in that? So, a server is a high-end computer, highly configured computer which can offer service, because it should be highly configured, no? Because it has to provide services to many clients like you, sometimes hundreds of clients like you. So, a server is also a computer, but a powerful computer. And end user personal computer networks and computer workstations are clients. See, what we are all end users, no? So, whatever devices you have, they are called as clients. And clients are interconnected by LAN. See, I have a client in front of me right now, and now it is connected to a server. How? Using a cable, using a LAN connection. Okay. And client and server can operate on separate computer platforms, no problem. Sometimes, see, I don't know what the computer in Google Office is, what operating system they are using, but I am using Windows. Yeah, there is no rule that both the client and server should have the same operating system. No rule like that. And either the client platform or the server platform can be upgraded without having to upgrade the, yes, I have some problem with my phone. I have upgraded my Android and I did not inform it to Google. I did not take any permission from Google. I have upgraded my Android and started using FB, and I did not inform to FB that I am upgrading my phone. No need. And FB people will not tell you when they upgrade something. So this is the beauty of client server. If you make any modification in the server, that need not be known to the client, that need not be informed to the client, and if you make any modifications in the client, that need not be informed to the server. It is automatically known. See, whenever you call Airtel office and all, they will tell you the model of the phone you are using, everything they will tell you. That is automatically known. Okay. And the server is able to service multiple, yes, that is the beauty of the server. That is the duty and beauty of the server. It has to service multiple clients simultaneously, sometimes hundreds and thousands of them. Okay. And action is usually initiated at the, see, what is the need to server? When will server respond? Only when the client asks it something, then only the server will respond, isn't it? Otherwise, server will not tell you anything. Whenever you type something, then only Google server responds, isn't it? Yeah. And middleware is all distributed software needed to allow clients and servers to interact or communicate. See, there will be some special softwares called middlewares between the actual server and the client, which coordinates the traffic, which coordinates everything that takes place between the actual server and the client. This will be the middleware. And middleware allows for communication, directory services, queuing, distributed file sharing and printing. So, these middleware softwares will be in between the actual server and the client, and will coordinate everything, the activities between the client and the server, like printing and other things. Okay. So, that is about the working of client server architecture. So, we will stop there and continue in the next session. Thank you.